Chaplain to the University of Melbourne and Adjunct Lecturer at Melbourne Mission and Ministry College. Prior to working in Christian ministry, Tim was an experimental scientist with the CSIRO, where he worked in mineral chemistry and published a number of papers in international peer-reviewed journals. He turned down 2 offers to study for a PhD in earth science to turn his attention to theology. Tim has a first-class honours in science from the University of Sydney, where he majored in earth science, and a Master of Divinity from Melbourne. Tim Patrick.
G'day, I'm going to stand. I'm going to use piggies, so I hope you can see them. I want to present you a Christian view. I'm not here to say that this is the Christian view. Certainly not the official Christian Union view. I don't know if they even have one. It might upset some of you that it's not a fundamentalist creationist view, the soft target we all love. But it's a view that I hold and hold quite strongly, and lots of other Christians hold it too. I'm going to tell you 3 things. I'm going to tell you what I believe. I'm going to give you a paradigm that helps you understand why I believe it. And then I'm going to show you something out of the Bible that I think supports what I believe. Okay, so my view is basically this. I think the Earth is between 5 and 6 billion years old, and the universe is more like 14 billion years old. I'm happy to take the correction and say 13.8. I think the creation came through the combination of physical, chemical, geological, and biological processes that we've heard about. Basically, I believe everything that is accepted in the mainstream sciences. Everything we've heard today and more. The obvious question then is, isn't that contrary to Christian teaching? Isn't that contrary to the teaching of the Bible? Especially the book of Genesis, especially Genesis chapter 1, that seems to say something different. Am I shying away from the embarrassing stuff? No, I'm committed to biblical Christianity. And I believe I have very good and rational reasons for believing the Bible. That's a different conversation. I'm happy to have that at another time. I don't believe anything we learn in the natural sciences contradicts anything we learn from the Bible. I don't believe that God has woven a deception into the universe to test our faith. People who see a contradiction generally have a simplistic view, either of science or of the Bible. I actually think that believing in 7-day creation not only ignores the science, it actually ignores close reading to the message and the intention of Genesis chapter 1. So let me give you a paradigm that might help you understand the way that I think about it. I'm going to go to the next slide. The picture I drew. In terms of events in time, most of us can make good observations about the universe around us. We can look a little way into the past and a little way into the future, and we're able to interpret and make sense of a lot of what we see. We do this at the everyday level all the time. We also do it in the more precise and sophisticated works of formal scientific investigation. However, on the very distant horizons of time, right back in the origins of the universe and right into the future of the universe, we can't see everything with clarity. That's true whether you're a person of faith or a scientist who's opposed to faith. There are things at the limits of time that we cannot see. Even scientists get quite speculative when talking about the very early history of the universe and the first origins of life. They get even more speculative when they hypothesize what happened in the prehistory of the universe. Read Hawking throws out some great ideas with no evidence. The Large Hadron Collider, I'm sure, will tell us new things about fundamental particle interactions. I'm going to be working in that area. But it will still leave lots unanswered. This is all okay. This is all okay. It's just being honest and acknowledging that some things are beyond the limits of our direct observation. That's okay. However, I agree with what Ian says. The human mind is inquisitive. And there is a great desire to know where we've come from and where we're going. It's right to be inquisitive. So we inquire. This is my computer desktop. It's my 4th year geology field area. Interesting young granulite facets rocks for those who care. When you look at a computer screen, you see lots of tiny little icons of documents, spreadsheets, folders, all that kind of stuff. not a direct representation of what is going on inside my computer. If I crack my computer open and have a look inside, I do not find tiny little files with tiny little writing in tiny little folders, in other tiny little folders, right? I don't find that. I find circuit boards and microchips and things that have blips of electricity racing around that I really don't understand. The screen is not a magnifying glass that just helps you see the little stuff up close. It's a helpful interface, isn't it? It's an interface that someone has designed. It doesn't show you the reality. It doesn't even pretend to show you the reality. It provides the best way of thinking about and organising what's going on in your PC. Everyone knows this. No one is deeply troubled by it. It's an excellent way to think about what goes on inside your computer. We have this interface to make sense of and work with things that are beyond our comprehension. Again, none of us can see into the origins or ultimate future of all things. That's just the limitation of being human. But again, it's important to have some way of understanding the essentials about the past and the future if you want to have a proper view of where you are now. So wouldn't it be great to have an interface? A way of understanding the essentials of the beginning and the end of time. A way of looking in that told you a bit about what you needed to know so you could make sense of it. Well, here's my paragraph. The books of Genesis and Revelation, the first and last books of the Bible, significantly, were written to serve as those interfaces for us. They provide us with helpful ways of understanding the most important points about the origin and destiny of all things. Please note a couple of things here. The purpose is not to explain the details of particle physics or the biology. According to the Bible, there are actually more important truths for human beings to deal with. That means that these questions out here are still left there to be answered. If you're interested in them, go and smash particles and have a look. That's a great thing to do. Second thing to note is, the whole Bible is not like this. I do not read the Bible allegorically or as a big analogy. Most of the Bible falls in the period between the very beginning and the very end. Most of the Bible doesn't deal with the distant horizons, but it doesn't and is not written in the picture language of those books, and is presented to us as straightforward, read it off the page, history that makes sense in the same way that most things we study make sense. The interfaces that were given are just those two, first and last books of the Bible, to look at the past and the future. So the question then is, how do we understand, how do we interpret the interfaces, how do we read them? There are lots of wacky ideas out there, right? I bet I know more of them than you do. Fruitcakes who come up with weird ideas